for Radio Disney's Backyard Show. The show that dares to ask the big questions that concern you. Questions like,
what's going on in the schools?
What's this I hear about volunteering at the hospital?
Hey, anything fun happening this weekend?
If you care about it, we talk about it on the once a week Tell Me What's Going On Around Here radio program, Radio Disney's Backyard Show.
Let's go.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another incredible Backyard Show right here on Radio Disney AM 1260. My name is Jag, and today I would like to introduce you to someone who will be joining us from time to time on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Taylor.
Good morning, everyone. So glad to be with you today.
Glad you're here with us, too. Taylor is also a Radio Disney local personality, just like me.
I am. That's right.
Good to know for everyone out there. So what do we have on the docket for today's program?
Well, today we're going to be talking with a wonderful author by the name of Clint G Cox to discuss his latest book, Christmas Notes.
Very cool. Clint, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jag, and thank you, Taylor.
You're
and
welcome.
you are in Utah, is that correct?
I am. I'm from Utah. It's a little small town about right dead center of the state.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Have you lived there all your life?
I have. I'm born and raised.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
That's fantastic. Do you have snow out there right now?
You know what? It's really cold, and there's snow in the mountains, but
Yeah.
in the valley, we've lucked out.
That's good. That's good. That's good. We had a little tease of it here a few weeks ago, so we'll see what happens.
We're hoping to hold out a little bit longer.
So that's great. So what made you, first off, I mean, before you even get into this great book, what made you want to become an author?
Well, you know, I'm a plumber by trade, so it's really kind of out in the air for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm used to. I've always liked writing, but you know, I'd never really shared it with anybody because I'm dyslexic and I am a horrible speller. But so what happened is in 2009, this idea of this book came, and that's another topic for itself. But and I wrote it, and my wife, who read it, just said, "This is absolutely amazing. We need to try and get this published."
Wow, that's
fantastic.
wonderful.
Yeah. And when you said before you used to write in things and no one really saw it, so this is just something that you started doing as you were a kid, or?
Yeah. I've always liked putting my thoughts down on paper.
Yeah.
I've got notebooks full of thoughts and different experiences in my life, but I've never really shared them with anybody just for my fear of, you know, the spelling thing and what they
Sure, understandable.
Well, that's great to overcome that and accomplish such a wonderful book. Was this your first book you've written?
I've actually written others, but they are being looked into right now. But
Sure.
Oh, I can't wait.
yeah, and this is actually a 3-book series.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I didn't get that. That's fantastic. What would you say, I mean, as far as really writing and things, I was going to ask you kind of what your biggest inspiration was as an author, but really just to writing things. Why did you said you kind of had some difficulties to work through and everything as far as writing. What made you do it? Why did just writing on paper, how did that help you?
Well, I've got a real... The thing about a dyslexic person is they've got a real imaginative mind.
Yeah.
And so to put it in words, I have a hard time doing it. But if I put it on paper,
Yeah.
it comes out a lot better.
Interesting.
So I've always liked to do that so I can clear my thoughts and get them on paper. And most of the time they turn out pretty well.
For someone right now listening to, if they've never heard the term someone with dyslexia or someone who is dyslexic, what does that mean?
Well, a lot of people term dyslexia, if they don't know what it is, they term it with the kids that when they're reading, they try and read a word backwards or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is our brains actually take the word and they take like symbols, so like an O and an A, they kind of look alike, and they just compress it into one. So what you have is you have a word with a lot of vowels in it.
Yeah.
Our minds will just compress that word down so you actually cannot see some of the vowels. And it takes a lot of concentration to look at that word and spread it back out. It's actually really tiring and overwhelming for a child.
Wow.
When were you first diagnosed with this?
Well, that's the thing. It was kind of just coming out when I was a kid. They were just figuring out that, hey, I mean, this is why these kids can't read.
Right.
They're having problems, seeing these words. And so, I was diagnosed as a kid, but they still weren't able to figure out how to kind of fight it until a little bit later. And now they do a great job in schools.
Sure. That's incredible. That's incredible. For someone out there right now, too, who maybe wants to follow in your footsteps, maybe at the same time, too, they're working through dyslexia themselves or something else. But what advice would you have to them? I mean, if they want to become an author, you definitely have quite an interesting set of circumstances that, as far as the road to get to where you're at right now. What advice would you give them?
I've met so many authors as I've traveled around with this book, so many aspiring authors that want to become authors.
Yeah.
And I always tell them that any time that you can write a book that's going to help somebody,
yeah,
or that's going to get a kid to read or get a person to read, because we live in a world where not very many people read.
Right.
I say do it. It's just a great opportunity. It's satisfactory to yourself to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And most people have goals to write books. I've heard that a lot, that they want to write a book, and I just say do it. Don't
go for it.
Great advice.
Great.
Great advice. We're going to take a short break right now, but we are going to dig deeper into this incredible book. It's called Christmas Note by Clint G Cox in just a few moments. This is Jag.
And Taylor.
This is Radio Disney's Backyard Show. We'll be back in just a moment.
Children are naturally curious. They're born learning, so follow their lead. What does your child like about riding in the car? Singing along to the radio music? Counting trucks? Or watching the traffic light change color? Talk with your child about what's going on around the car, and it becomes a learning moment. And when you talk with your child, you build vocabulary. Learning starts long before school does. For more tips, go to bornlearning.org. A public service announcement brought to you by United Way, the Ad Council, and Radio Disney AM 1260.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome you back to today's program. It's the Backyard Show on Radio Disney AM 1260. This is Jag.
And Taylor.
And we are here with an incredible author. His name is Clint G Cox, author of an incredible book that is available now, Christmas Notes.
Now, Clint, I know you were saying before that it is a great story of how you came up with the concept for Christmas Notes. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So in 2009, I'm a multiple business owner. Not only do I have the plumbing, but I have other businesses, and I had one that was basically tanking at the time, and one that was so busy that wouldn't let me deal with the one that was tanking. And so it was during the holiday season, but I was just so busy and not able to do the things with my kids,
right.
The Christmas things, read the books and the decorations and all that. I was just buried in paperwork. Well, my daughter comes up to me 2 weeks before Christmas, and she was 8 years old at the time, and she just said, "Dad, I'm not very excited about Christmas."
Oh, no.
You know what? I felt horrible because I knew it was my fault.
Oh.
And so that night, after we got him in bed, I was just laying in bed thinking, I've got to write something so she knows how I feel as a grown-up, with all the stress of the season, but also to help her, get into the spirit of Christmas.
Right.
And honestly, that night, the whole outline for the Christmas book series was written down, and plus most of the first chapter.
Oh, my gosh, just in one night. Wow.
Yeah, well, I was up all night.
Just had all those ideas flowing out. That's awesome. Can you give our listeners a little bit of a synopsis of the book Christmas Notes, or all the books in the series, maybe even?
Oh, you bet. This is my favorite thing. Okay. The first book, what happens is there's this little girl, Sienna, you mentioned her name.
Yeah.
She's in a car accident and loses her voice. And so while she's trying to adjust, she uses one-word notes to communicate. And you can imagine a little 5-year-old girl, each time they give a note, or she gives a note to somebody, it helps them, and they turn around and try and help her. and centered around the holiday season. It's just a great, it's emotional, but it's very uplifting because all the notes just help the people out. They're exactly what they need to hear. You know, just a perfect holiday story.
That's great. That's great. So it sounds a bit like, as well, that the main character in the book, his name is Max Fox, and this is a kind of sounds like it aligns with some of what you were talking about. Would you say you kind of wrote Max Fox to kind of is it you? Is Max Fox you?
You know what? It is a spitting image of me.
Yeah.
some of my friends that when I was going through the editing stages that read the book, they were saying, "Man, I could just see you the whole time during this." You know?
Right.
And that's a good thing too, because a lot of male feelings that we keep bottled up inside, I put into the book so that children know how we're feeling, and that spouses know how we're feeling during the stress of the season and the different things that are going on in our lives.
It's written in a very, a very vivid way where you really can picture these characters and feel for these characters, and it starts happening just right off the bat where you really can picture folks. So, you did a really great job at conveying that, describing that, making them believable.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you think that's the best way for our young writers to get started, is just write down their emotions and things that are happening in their day-to-day lives?
Yeah. You know what I've found, with some of the popular books that have been out lately, for teenagers and stuff like that, and books that I've read, the authors do a really good job of putting the emotions that everybody goes through day to day.
Yeah.
And so the people can relate with the characters, and that is the overwhelming response that I've had with this book, is because it's got children all the way up to grandparents in it.
Right.
And people can relate to each character and actually, that put themselves in their shoes.
That's great. That's great. What would you say for anyone listening right now to, in whether it's about the book or just life in general? Why? And this is something that was super important to you. My question is, why do you think getting in touch with the Christmas spirit is so important?
In my opinion, the reason why us grumpy adults need to get into the season is because of the children.
Yeah.
Because really, they enjoy the season so much more if they can see an adult having so much fun with it.
Yeah. Good. Very good advice on that. So just kind of like setting the pace.
The spirit of the season.
Yeah.
But we, really, adults can help bring that in, or they can take it away, as I found in my situation too.
Exactly. That's great.